Hello friends, it's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums today with a weekly check-in video for the week of Sunday, August 24th through August 30th. So Saturday, August 30th, 2025. I know it's been a while since I've done one of these. I was very consistent for a while and I just kind of fell off. So I appreciate you guys that watch, you guys that are subscribed. I have been trying to kind of get some content out as I can. It's not always super easy for me to have a lot of quiet time in my space to be able to record. I'm hoping that as my schedule gets a little bit more normal, I will be able to do these a little bit more regularly. So let's see what we have in store for this week. So very first thing is what we are supposed to know, right? It's been so long I almost forgot. So what do we need to know for this week as a collective? So today we have the Eight of Pentacles reversed. All right, so what are we supposed to do this week? We have the Six of Wands or Six of Inspiration reversed. And then we have what we are to release this week. So we have the Universe, which is an extra card in this deck from another deck that I wanted to add it into my own deck. What are we supposed to contemplate this week? And today we have the 10 of Swords or 10 of Voices upright. So, okay. So I know we had this Virgo new moon, which is going to kick off eclipse season. We just had, Mercury retrograde. And so we just have a lot of these different planetary influences and energies kind of going on that can make it a little bit challenging for us to kind of feel like we are seeing things quite as clearly as we would like. But let's focus on what we need to kind of take into account for this week. So what we need to know. Now, the Eight of Pentacles is typically a card of us learning how to hone our zone of genius, if that makes sense. And it's very much a card that to me relates back to perfectionism. It can talk about, really being aligned with what is going on and really practicing what it is that we really want to do. Like being very involved in the process of what we are trying to achieve for ourselves. With this being reversed, I feel like maybe this is kind of saying that we need to get back to the drawing board in some way. There's something that maybe we need to reflect on, maybe something that we need to pay attention to a little bit more. Maybe there's some sort of option or choice that we haven't really taken into consideration in order for us to really have everything that we need. So maybe we haven't really quite perfected what it is that we're trying to do. I think that this is also very Virgo season coded, if that makes sense, because I feel like Virgo season can kind of bring out a lot of the sense of trying to get things right, especially after this Mercury retrograde, where we're wanting to kind of focus on what looks good, what feels good, what makes us feel more in control of our lives. So this week may still feel like we don't have things quite figured out, or things haven't really fallen into place the way that we had initially intended. So we just need to know that it's okay to not have everything maybe 1000% figured out, or to have everything look as perfect as we would like for it to. When I think of Pentacles, I also feel like it is a reminder of what behaviors are we exhibiting. And I think that this is also a reminder that perfect doesn't really exist. And maybe we just have to be okay with understanding that we are willing to put in the effort necessary in order for something to be really great and really good, and we shouldn't be putting so much pressure on ourselves to have it be perfect, or to feel like we have to overexert ourselves in order for something to be the way that we want it to be, if that makes sense. So I think that this week is kind of saying like, hey, be a little bit gentler, kinder with yourself. Don't push so far to have everything look a certain way. We know that you have what it takes to be very dedicated and to put in the effort necessary, but maybe that's not really what this week is requiring of us. Maybe it's just kind of saying like, hey, just show up, just do what you can. Choose how you want to kind of move through this energy this week. And either way, don't be so focused on how it looks externally to everybody else. So for what we need to do, we have the Six of Wands reverse. Now, the Six of Wands is typically a card of success, victory. It can be very much a card of like being celebrated for your wins. Again, this being kind of reversed, I feel like this is more of an internalization of this energy. It's maybe saying that we are still a little bit in conflict with ourselves, with what we're doing. Maybe we kind of feel like we're the only ones going up to bat for ourselves in some ways. And so it can still feel a little bit isolating, or a little bit like other people don't really see what it is that you're working towards and what it is that you've been focusing on enough in order to make things come together for you. So this week may feel like the things that you really need to do are kind of take a step back, kind of reconnect with your own personal wins. Be ready to kind of celebrate yourself. Maybe find ways to have a sense of success, have a sense of joy, have a sense of victory that is a little bit more internalized versus feeling like other people will see what it is that you're working towards, or feeling like you can really share in some ways. So I feel like this card is kind of saying like, how are you connecting to these wins or these victories in a way for yourself, and kind of giving yourself time to say like, I want to celebrate this for myself without it being something that other people may recognize as an external success or as an external win. I think life is kind of filled with a lot of these things, these moments where we can kind of sit with ourselves and say, wow, okay, like I've done a really great job. I've stayed on top of this. Like, you know, I've been really consistent. I've been showing up for myself. I said I would do this, and I have, you know, really been very like motivated to kind of follow through on these things, even if there isn't always external validation or some sort of external prize for ourselves. So I think what we need to do is to just kind of take that moment to kind of realize like we're the ones that can kind of dictate how we feel and what we do with this energy, especially given that we have this Eight of Pentacles reverse, where we may feel like, oh, I haven't done it quite right, or it hasn't been quite perfect. It's still saying like, hey, that's okay. It's an opportunity for you to still celebrate and to really take some time out to, you know, be very connected with what it is that you're doing and why. Next, we have what we need to release. So here we have the universe. Now, this card is an extra major card from another deck, as I made this as my little like magpie tarot deck. And so this card's energy to me really talks about maybe there is something that we have been hanging on to and maybe feeling like we're responsible for. And it's so much bigger than that. It's so much more than something that is within our sense of control. And I think the universe card is kind of saying like, hey, we just have to kind of let this sense of, I have to do all of these things, or, you know, my world is going to fall apart, because this is a card that follows the world in traditional tarot. So I think that this is kind of saying like, hey, as much as we need to be receptive and open to what it is that we're doing and how we're showing up in this energy, the universe kind of says like, we have to kind of maybe surrender a little bit. We need to release that expectation of how things should look, or how things should feel, or how things were supposed to be, if that makes sense. I know a lot of us make a lot of plans, a lot of we put a lot of pressure on ourselves about what we think things should be like, and where we should be at in certain stages of our life. And maybe I feel like the universe in this instance, especially with what we need to release, is that maybe we are still externalizing a lot of things that, really aren't going to be significant to our personal success and to us really doing what we need to do and practicing what it means to create something that feels good for us. So I think the universe card is, in a lot of ways, kind of saying like, hey, there's a lot of stuff that is going to be outside of your control. There's going to be a lot of things that maybe feel like much larger machinations of, how this is going to fall into place for everybody else and what this is going to look like, especially with a lot of the things that are going on. If you live in the US, like the political climate is very tense, and a lot of us don't really know what this will look like moving forward, and what will happen. So I think the universe is kind of here saying you got to kind of let this stuff go, because there's so many things that are outside of your control, and there's not really much that you can do to change it, to make it something else, to have it feel or look a certain way. So this is an opportunity for you to kind of release and surrender to the wisdom that maybe doesn't always look the way that you had anticipated, or doesn't always look the way that you had maybe thought that it would look like. Because I know, as someone who's well into their 40s now, that my life doesn't look anything how I thought it was going to by the time I was this big age, if that makes sense. There's a lot of different milestones that haven't really happened, but there are other things that I've been able to successfully do that I never would have put on like my bingo card, so to speak. And I think that this card for this week is kind of reminding us, especially as we're in the throes of Virgo season. I think a lot of us kind of start getting in our heads, start feeling like the pressure to compare, the pressure to, have it all figured out, or to feel like, well, I should know better, I should, this, that, the other. But as I remind myself constantly, I may be at a big age, but this is the first time I've been this big age, so I don't really know what I'm doing, and that's okay. And I think the universe card is kind of that energy of like, you may not know what's happening, you may not know where this is leading, you may not understand what overall will come together because of this, but just let it go, because there's something else that is coming into place that you can't possibly have an understanding of, and it's not really going to look the way that you had anticipated or the way that you had planned. Just kind of focus on how your life feels more so this week than what it looks like to everybody else. Now, with what we need to contemplate, we have the 10 of Swords, or 10 of Voices in this deck. When I get this card, I know a lot of people look at it as kind of like a negative energy, a harsh card. It's like, oh, you've been through the worst, like you've suffered enough, you've you're basically left for dead. And even in traditional tarot, like if you look at the imagery, it's like a person, lying face down with like the 10 swords in their back. And I like to look at this card as an opportunity for moving into the next phase, an opportunity to heal, an opportunity to kind of say, hey, like the mental load has been taxing. I have been through the ringer. I have had all of the, not to say terrible, but maybe super anxious, super like in my head thoughts, the super crazy things happen, and I've finally moved into the next phase of letting these things go, of not allowing my thoughts to take me out and take me down. When I think of the 10 of Swords, I feel like it is an opportunity for you to kind of rise up even after all of the things that you feel have like come to pin you down, or come to, make it more challenging for you to move forward. Now, I'm not saying that every card has like a positive spin. I think that much like life, tarot can be very nuanced, it can be very layered, it can give us a lot of opportunity, and we're the ones that can kind of see the message for what it is. So this being in the what we need to contemplate is that maybe we need to take some time out to look at the ways in which we have been wounded, look at the ways in which we are still carrying these mental stories that don't really make sense for what we need to do or what we want to do, especially when we reflect back on like the Eight of Pentacles energy and the Six of Wands energy. Maybe there's something that is mentally holding us back from being able to kind of say like, man, I am on it. I can do what is necessary. I, deserve to be, celebrated. I deserve to have other people recognize, what I've overcome and what I've been doing. I think that the Ten of Swords is here essentially as an invitation and letting us know like, hey, the things that happen and the way things are or have been doesn't mean like that is all that we're going to continue to experience or all that we are here to do. Sometimes it takes us being almost cut back down, in some ways in order for us to really truly grow the way that we're meant to. I almost see like, it's like coming to the harvest and like culling things is necessary in order for other things to grow or for something else to have an opportunity to really flourish later on. It's kind of like something called deadheading. Like whenever you have like a flowering bush or whatever, it's like you want to remove a lot of the heads at first and it can seem very harsh, but that activates a little bit more growth. And so I think like the Ten of Swords is very similar to that, where you may feel like, oh man, someone's coming through. It's like I was trying to bloom and they're just like cutting all the things that have been blooming. And then you come to the realization of like, that initiates a new growth cycle. It initiates an opportunity for you to be like, well, you know what? I'm going to really super bloom now. And I'm really going to have these things happen. And I'm really going to push a lot of this growth that I've been trying to do. So I think that this card, where, especially when it comes to like what we need to contemplate this week, is that it's kind of saying like, hey, maybe take a step back and kind of look at everything that you've overcome, everything that you have worked through, what you have focused on, and what does that mean to you as far as like, what foundation is that laying down for you? Is it allowing you to really like trust that things are going to work out the way that you had anticipated? Is it going to give you an opportunity to really move into this energy without feeling like you're not doing the things that you need to do, or you're not on the right track, or you're not doing the right things? Because I think a lot of us put so much pressure on ourselves to fit into a mold that sometimes isn't really for us. It's not, our size. It doesn't have our personal mission. It doesn't have our name on it, basically. And some of us are so stuck on like what has to look like this, or it has to feel like this, or I've only understood it to be this way. And I think that these cards this week are kind of saying like, let it go. Stop trying to force something that maybe is not really truly for you. Let's move into energy that feels a little bit more in alignment with who we are and what we really truly need. All right, I'm going to pause this. I'm going to grab a Moon Messages card and we'll see what we have for this week. All right, we have the Moon Messages Oracle deck by Yasmin Bolin. And our message is the cold moon. We have to face our fears. And I think that is very well connected to the Ten of Voices, the Ten of Swords. I think that this is just kind of saying like, hey, there's something that we have been hanging on to, a story that no longer makes sense. And I think this new moon in Virgo has a lot of this kind of energy of making us kind of sit in not knowing, because we will have two new moons this season in Virgo. So this new moon at 0 degrees, I think it's really making us identify a lot of things within ourselves as far as like, what are we holding on to? Like, what sort of things have we inadvertently like had within us that really don't make sense for the life that we're trying to create or what it is that we're trying to do. I know with tensions being so high energetically, kind of feeling a lot of this very, not to say like fear mongering, because I don't even think it's that. I mean, I think a lot of it is like, for me, it's like just trying to stay informed can feel a little bit confusing and a little bit scary. It can feel very much like I don't want to give in to the fear. And so I think a lot of this has been allowing me to kind of sit with myself and be like, where's this really coming from? Is this really something I should really truly be afraid of? And I think being in a place in time with society and technology, anxiety is a lot higher, because when we have a little bit more knowledge, we have a little bit more of this understanding that there are so many more things out there in the world that we may not understand, that can feel very scary, that can feel very overwhelming. And we have to learn how to regulate ourselves, regulate our emotions, confront these fears, kind of face the things that maybe, make us very afraid. And so I think that this week we're given an opportunity to kind of sit with ourselves and be like, all right, what is it that maybe is holding me back? That is a fear-based story or a fear-based perspective that doesn't really make sense for what it is that I'm trying to do, and based off of my own personal experiences. So I think that this week will be one where we're a little bit more reflective. We're taking some time out to kind of connect in new ways with ourselves, and kind of like getting back to the foundation and the base of who we are and what that means for us long term. So I want to say thank you so much for joining me. I know I haven't really been posting as much. I do appreciate you guys being patient and watching my videos. Please take care, stay safe, and as always, make good choices. Bye.